Hello students, welcome to KAVYA Plus series. In today's class, we'll be doing a chapter that we had done before. Now, as I told you in previous class that our target is to score beyond 90. So, see students, we need to follow a proper roadmap to it. So, as I told you that we'll be starting by important keywords, board exam strategies, important questions, everything. And also we'll be acknowledging the author, themes, keywords, expressions, and everything which is required for you to score 90 above. So, as we are starting, one question for you. What is more powerful weapon? What is the most powerful weapon? Come on, quickly tell. Now, many people think that the powerful weapon which is there is a language. At times, it's not necessary that a weapon can be used during the times of war. The real weapon can be your own language, your mother language. Now see, realization comes once when something gets lost. So this is what we are going to do in our chapter. So if you are new to this life, first see, follow the series step by step. First watch our introductory video. See, because I want you all to score 90 above in this beautiful subject. See, why I'm telling you this? Because this subject will be helping you to overall improve your grade. So, see, first you can start with the introductory video, and after introductory video, you can start with the keywords. Little bit you can get the idea about the chapter which we are doing. So, welcome to the Aakhri lesson. Now, why I said Aakhri lesson, it's not an Aakhri lesson, but the chapter which we are doing is going to be the last lesson, which is chapter 1 of class 12 English. So, let's start by reading it from NCERT. So, do you remember in previous class I had asked you an icebreaker. How would you feel if today is the last day of speaking your own language, your mother language? How you'll be feeling? All of a sudden, there will be, change of feelings. What you'll be feeling? Devastated? You'll be regretting for not realizing the value or for underrating it. So, this is the same situation which is, going to happen in this chapter. So, I hope you all are ready. As I told you, see, there is strategy which we need to follow to score 90 above. And this strategy toppers follow. See, it's not about, just using refreshers. We need to understand line by line NCERTs, because what CBSE board expects from you is conceptual understanding. They demand logical understanding from you. And don't forget, you are having marks for your vocabulary as well. So let's start the lesson, that is last lesson. Now, in the previous series of the same chapter, that is the last lesson, in that, I told you that we'll be following it step by step. We'll be starting with the author. Now, students, why we start with the author? Because the person who has written this chapter, that is the author, we should have idea about it, that what essence that author has put in the chapter. When we are understanding the author, what author wants to deliver us, then only we can understand the chapter. So let's see what we are going to study about Alphonse Daudet. So Alphonse Daudet was born on 1840-1897. He was a French novelist, playwright, and you know what? He used to write about everyday experiences. The last lesson is set in the days of when, the war conditions were there. At that time, this plotting was done of this lesson. So the last lesson was set in the days of the Franco-Prussian War. Now, it was settled at that time. The plotting was done at that time. And every war has some conclusion. Every war has some result. Either defeat or win. So, in this war, France was defeated by Prussia, led by Bismarck. Prussia then consisted of what now are the nations of Germany. Now it's part of Germany. Poland and parts of Austria. In this story, the French districts of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands. Now, let's read the story. What we are, what the author wants to say about the last lesson. Simply, it's about the, war situation. What happens when, just suppose say, there's a war between two countries. And what if another country wins? Obviously, that country will impose their culture, their language, everything. So similarly, this thing happened in our chapter. Let's see. Okay. Now, very important thing from your board perspective. See, it's not right. It's not just writing about simple answers that you're writing since class, I can say since class 7th, 8th, you must be writing answers, but CBSE board demands expressions. Now, the expressions which you can use for this chapter, let's see. In great dread of, one second. In great dread of, it means very afraid of or terrified. What happens now? How we can link this expression to our chapter, that is the last lesson. See, do you remember there were two main characters, Franz and 𝐻𝐻𝐻. So, in this, what was there? Franz was a little boy. He was in great, like everybody is afraid of their parents, their teachers. And obviously, if you have not done any task, if your parents have assigned some task to you, or your teacher has assigned some task to you, then what happens? You are afraid of your teacher. So, Franz was in great dread of being scolded by 𝐻𝐻𝐻. Was 𝐻𝐻𝐻? 𝐻𝐻𝐻 was Franz's teacher. Counted on. Counted means depended on, or you can say relied on, expected. Now what happens? 𝐻𝐻𝐻, who was the teacher? He expected his students to learn. Obviously, every teacher expects that their students learn smoothly. So 𝐻𝐻𝐻, he counted on his students to learn. And then next expression is thumbled at the edges. Now what it means, students? See, born out of frequent use. Now how it's linked over here? See, example, the old books were thumbed at the edges, showing they had been used many times. When something is used frequently and there's a grade of use, so you can use this expression when it comes to, in previous video, I gave you one question that which was linked to the last lesson and the education perspective. So there you can use this type of expressions. Now, in unison, together at the same time with one voice. When you are together at the same time and obviously with one voice. Example, the students repeated the lesson in unison. So these are certain expressions which you can use in your answer writing, and they will surely make you gain marks. Now let's move further. Now, next expression is great bustle. Okay, well, sorry for the interruption. Let's be back. Now, a great bustle. What does a great bustle means? A lot of activity, noise, and commotion. What happens? See, if you remember, like previously we had discussed. Now, why again and again I'm discussing about the previous what we have done? I'm discussing so that you can link it, you can understand it. See, usually there was a great bustle at the beginning of school. When students come to school, there is, there's so much activeness over there. We approach ourselves with, blame ourselves for, or feel guilty about. People reproach themselves for not learning their own language. See, when that language was no more allowed over there, people gradually started uh, valuing it. Now let's move further. Now this chapter we are starting. This chapter just understand it from the perspective of a little boy named France. Now, what France has to say? Let's see. I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of school day. Now what happened that France was a little boy. He didn't like studying. He didn't like going to school. So it was the time that he had started very late in the morning and he was in great dread. He was in fear of getting scolded. Why? Obviously, he must have done something. And the thing which he had done was that his teacher had assigned him one question. Now, who was the teacher? 𝐻𝐸𝐻. He assigned a question on participles. And he had not done that question. So he was, he was having a phobia. He was having a phobia to go to the school at that time. And I did not know the first word about them. Obviously, if you are not present, if you are not physically present in the class, how you'll be aware about anything? So obviously, that little boy France was having no idea or no clue about participles. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. Now, he was visualizing something which every child does. So, he was thinking that as he had not done homework, so he was thinking of spending the day out of doors. He was seeing the weather. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping. At the edge of the woods, in the open field, back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. Drill was going off of Prussian soldiers. So it was all much more tempting than the rule of participles. Now he was, enjoying the surroundings. He was enjoying the surroundings more than, doing participles. Now let's move further. Passed. Now, when he was on the way to go to school, he passed the town hall. There was a crowd. All of a sudden in the morning, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. At that time, any important news, any important notice, it used to be put on that notice board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. Now, they were having mindset about that all the bad news used to come from that board. So, now let's see what is that bad news. The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer. Every bad news used to be depicted on that bulletin board. And I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be the matter now? Now he was wondering, what can be the matter now? Now see, he was concerned about everything except participles, which his teacher had assigned him to do. Now, let's see. Then as I hurried by, as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher, who was there with his apprentice. Now, student, what is apprentice? The one who learns and earns out of that. It's learning skill by earning. Reading the bulletin called after me. Don't go so fast, Bab. Bab, be small child. You'll get to your school in plenty of time. Now they were commenting that, don't run fast, child. You'll get back. I thought he was making fun of me and reached 𝐻𝐸𝐻's little garden all out of breath. And all of a sudden that child, obviously child is child, so he was thinking that they are making fun of him. So 𝐻𝐸𝐻, he was thinking that somehow he could reach to 𝐻𝐸𝐻's garden. Next. Usually, when school used to begin, there used to be a great bustle. Now remember, bustle. Again, it's an expression which is very important for your target to score 90 above. See, students, I know you must have heard that underline the answers, not actually, don't underline the answers, but underline the important key points. It is really important. When you are doing answer writing part, and when you are particularly focusing on some point by underlining it, means you want to, you want to grab the attention of the examiner. So that is really important. And obviously inserting these expressions will give the weightage to your answer. So yeah, this is important. So there was a great bustle which could be heard out of the street. The opening and closing of desk lessons, repeated in unison. Again, it's an expression very loud with our hands over our ears to understand better. So now, same routine was there. There was a great bustle. But now what happened that, see, it was so still. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. Now, he was scared of 𝐊𝐴𝐵. He wanted to reach the class, but without seeing. And somehow he reached over there. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Like Sunday mornings, they are so still. So similarly, that day was like that. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places. Everybody was well settled in his class. Hamil walking up and down with this terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. Just imagine, you are late for the school, everybody is settled, and you have to enter that strict class, or you have to enter the class of a very strict teacher. How you'll feel? Come on, think how you'll feel. You'll be feeling scared. So, but he was completely opposite. What he said that he blushed, and little bit he was scared also how to enter. And the reason was not the fear, but reason was that he had not done participles. Now let's move further. But nothing happened. He reached the class, nobody scolded, nothing happened. It was so casual. And 𝐿𝐴𝐵 saw me and said very kindly, now the teacher who used to scold didn't say anything. How surprising it is, how he must be feeling. And 𝐿𝐴𝐵 said, go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning without you. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then. Now, he was in that mindset that he was, when we are in hurry, we are not noticing the things which are going around. Now, something was there in his class that was unusual. It was like something different was there. Now, let's see what he noticed, that his teacher, 𝐴𝐵, was having a beautiful green coat. He was dressed differently. Now, as he was in hurry, he had not noticed the attire of the teacher. But as he entered, obviously that thing happened, that teacher didn't scold. So now, as he came to the class, he relaxed himself. Now he was realizing that something is different. Teacher has some different kind of attires, like in mostly school or only on Teachers' Day, teachers are allowed to wear their uniform. So it was surprising for him. In fact, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. Silence was there. But the thing that surprised me was to see the backbenchers that were always empty. Now, backbenches, they always used to get empty, but now somebody was sitting over there. Now, who were there? The villagers, who were sitting quietly like students. Old Hauser with his three-cornered hat. It was unusual time, so every different occupational persons, or you can say people, they were sitting over there. 1 second. Yeah. Other than Hauser, there were former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others. Everybody looked sad. Hauser had brought an old primer, but one thing was there. Everybody, they were looking very sad. and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles flying across the pages. Now, Franz was wondering about all. 𝐻𝐸𝐿 mounted his chair in the same grave and gentle for seeking birds' eggs or going sliding. Everything was seen. But the strange was the villagers were there. All the dignitaries were there. Now, obviously, in normal class, only student and teacher is there. But now, everybody was there. Now, I know you all must be remembering why they were there, because they were there to pay tribute to their mother tongue. Now, let's see. One second. Yeah. So, see, basically, 𝐻𝐸𝐿 was addressing the class. My children, this is the last lesson. Imagine a teacher who has been teaching a subject since last 40 years. And today is going to be his last lesson. It's not that because that teacher is going to get retired, but yeah, after that, that teacher won't be allowed to teach that particular subject or that particular language. How that teacher must be feeling? Obviously sad, devastated. Similarly, 𝐻𝐸𝐿 was feeling the same. Now, I shall give you, now this is the bad news. The bad news was that the order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. Now see how saddest part it was that 𝐻𝐸𝐿 was saying that this is the last lesson. Now new German teacher will come tomorrow onwards. And now this is the last lesson. As this is the last lesson, I want you all to be very attentive. Let's move further. What a thunderclap. Now what do you think? Franz, who was not at all liking that teacher, who was not liking that subject, how that boy must be feeling? Somewhat happy? Or what do you think? Some strange feeling must be there, na? Let's see. What is the thunderclap? These words were to me. Oh, the wretches. That was what they had put up at the town hall. Now he was remembering. Do you remember that? The notice which had been put on that bulletin board, now they were talking about the same. My last French lesson. Why? I hardly knew how to write. Franz, he was talking to himself. My last French lesson? Now I hardly know how to write French. I should never learn any more. I must stop there then. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lesson. See, when we are getting something, we should realize the worth of it before it gets, it gets away from us. So similarly, it happened with Franz. He was not studying. He was not liking that subject. He was not liking that teacher as well. But as he came to know that this is going to be his last lesson, and hardly he was knowing how to write, and hardly he was knowing how to speak. Still, he was, feeling like that he is losing something. So, my books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry. Now, obviously, the one who doesn't like to study, the books will be a nuisance for that child, and all of a sudden, that child starts realizing the worth. So, similarly, it was happening with Franz. I couldn't give up, and 𝐻𝐸𝐿 too. The idea that he was going away, that I should never see him, made me forget all about his ruler. Now, now he started valuing that teacher. He forgot about the ruler. Now he was knowing the worth of the teacher who used to scold him. Poor man. Now he was, having sympathy for 𝐻𝐸𝐿, that poor man. It was in honor of his last lesson that he had put on that fine Sunday. And now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry. Now what happened that everything was just for the tribute of that language. Why it was the last lesson? It was the last lesson of that particular language which won't be allowed to teach, like the people who are residing over there, they won't be allowed to learn it further. Now, it was the way of thanking. Now they were thanking 𝐻𝐸𝐿, their master, for his 40 years of faithful service. Just imagine about that teacher who had been teaching that subject from last 40 years. How that teacher must be feeling.
नमस्ते दोस्तों, आज की
this kind
का
of
उत्तर है
thoughts were going
उत्तराखंड,
through the mind of France. What would I not have given to be able to see was dreadful rule. The participants all through very loud and clear and without one mistake. Now all of a sudden he started realizing that it was just about participle. I could have learned that. Now he started realizing the importance. Then what happened? See. But he got mixed up. He got mixed up with the words and stood there. He was holding his desk. His heart was beating and not daring to look up. Now he was, having shame in his eyes that he had not paid attention to his teacher. He had not given that much importance which was required, which he was supposed to give to his mother tongue. Little France, you must feel bad enough. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, I have plenty of time. Now see, whenever we are having some task, what we say, we are having plenty of time, we'll do it tomorrow. But what if that tomorrow is the last day? So how that person feels? So similarly, that teacher was trying to make that little boy realize that every time you used to say that tomorrow. Now just see that tomorrow is today, that which is your last day. Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it? You pretend to be Frenchmen? Now see, now the other country won. And now what that country must be, those people, what they'll say, that you're Frenchmen and you're not knowing French. How funny it is and how you'll feel. You're not able to speak, not right, your own language. But you're not the worst, poor little France. We have all a great deal to reapproach ourselves with. Now, 𝐻𝐸 was making France realize that you are not the only one who is not giving importance to their own language, their own mother tongue. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. Now, obviously, parents, they do a lot of things for us. They want us to learn the best. They prefer to put you to work on see, there was choice in front of France's parents. They could have asked him to work in the farms, but instead what they did for him, they got him admitted in the school. They allowed him to study. They gave him freedom to study. But did he realize the worth of that freedom? The importance of education? And I have been to blame also. Have I not often sent you to water my flowers instead of learning? Now, 𝐻𝐸, he's angry on himself also, because at times what he used to do, he used to ask friends to water his plants. And when I wanted to go fishing, I did not just give you a holiday. Now, when 𝐻𝐸 wanted to go for fishing, what he used to do, he used to give holiday to his students. Now, he's experiencing those entire things which he used to do. Then from one thing to another, 𝐻𝐸 went on talk of the French language. Now they were discussing about the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world. Now they were appreciating that it is the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. Next. Because when people are enslaved, now see what happens, students, when people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, now see, when some other country will come to rule and when they'll be asking that you're not knowing your own language, because of that thing, because of their, you can say, casual attitude, what they'll undergo at that time. If they had the key to their prison, then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. I was amazed. Now, as it was last lesson, so he was paying attention to the last lesson. And in his last lesson, he'll be realizing the word, that it was not as bad as he thought of. That I had never listened so carefully, that he had never explained everything with so much patience. See, at times it was 𝐻𝐸's fault also, and a little bit France's fault also. Both were having casual attitude towards the language. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before he going, see, it was M. Hamill's last class, so it seemed like that he wanted to give everything, every little part of the knowledge which he was having, he wanted to give everything. And to put it all into our hearts at one stroke. Next. Now see, what had happened after this? After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. Like there was a particular process, like they were having some grammar topics, and after that, they were having some writing topics, and after that, the teacher had brought new copies for them, and he had written in a beautiful brown handwriting, and obviously that language was France. What he had written, France, Alsace, France. They looked like green little flags floating everywhere in the school. As it was last lesson, everything, it was not something which was happening for the one, like for that particular time. But it used to happen before also, but because of the, casualty, they were not paying attention to it. So it was all about, it was all about the laws. They were having laws that after that, they will not be allowed to speak that language. They, all of a sudden, they had started realizing the worth of their own language. You know how important language is for once, just think about a child. Once he starts speaking what he speaks, he starts speaking in the language, their own language, like we have our own mother tongue. And if we won't be allowed to speak in that language, how we'll feel? But I think what we do, we focus on other languages. We are more keen about other languages. We are not focusing on our own language. We are more concerned about learning other languages. And when the day comes when we won't be allowed to speak that language, how we'll be feeling? That thing happened with France. And this story is all about, understanding things before it goes away from our hands. So in the last lesson, what actually happened? The teacher, M. Hamill, who took the last lesson, now that last lesson was, was something different, because that day he was teaching from the bottom of his heart. And everybody, all the dignitaries of that village, they were there and they were paying tribute to that language. So, don't you think it was too late? At the last day, if you are realizing worth of something, do you think it's appropriate? No. Since, when we are having something, we should value the worth of that particular thing. And at the end of the lesson, M. Hamel wrote, "Vive la France," which means long live France. This means the conclusion of his lesson was that French is the most beautiful, logical, and clearest language. So this is what I wanted to convey you through this chapter. Now again, I'm saying that follow the previous video. Why I'm saying follow the previous video? Because in that I have attached some themes, I've attached some keywords, and other than that, I have attached literary devices. See, it's not about writing simple answers. How you can, how you can put essence in your answer, it's about that. This is what board examiner demands from you. So, follow the pattern, read about the author, and don't give that much time, just 15 minutes, it's more than enough. I'm telling you that if you are giving 15 minutes to this part, it will be more than enough. And do you remember one thing I tell you that, is it possible that by seeing a video of a swimming, can you learn swimming? Is it possible just by watching a video of a swimming? Will you be able to learn swimming? Is it possible? No, na? Obviously, you need to, practice it. So, see the previous video. There's a question in that. Practice that question. Put the keywords. and give the essence to your answer writing. So yeah, that's all for today's class. I hope you have understood everything, and I'll be waiting for you in our next class, which will be, in that we'll be doing a poem that is My Mother at 66. So don't forget your promise, what you promised in our previous class, that this year you won't be just studying English to pass the examination, but you'll be studying English to enjoy it, to learn it, to understand it. So yeah, that's all for today's class. Thank you. Keep learning, keep growing.